talking about AI and ChatGPT these days. And so we all know that AI is extremely smart and very good at answering a lot of different questions. But how good is AI at answering questions that don't have a clear yes or no answer, that are controversial or maybe even based on opinion? So to test this out, I decided to try asking AI some really controversial money questions. So let's get started with the first question. Who should pay on a first date? So ChatGPT says there's no definitive answer to who should pay on a first date, as it depends on individual preferences and cultural norms. Traditionally, it was expected that the man would pay, but attitudes have shifted towards more equal and flexible arrangements. So first of all, it is pretty interesting how AI assumes that I am a heterosexual. So that is one thing I've learned about ChatGPT, is you have to specify who you are. Like if you're a lesbian and you date women, then the answer might be different. It says it depends on cultural norms. Let's talk about that for a second, because I am Korean, and even today in modern times, it is very, very normal and expected for men to pay. But the thing about Korea is it's still like very much rooted in traditional like gender roles. You can also see this in like Amsterdam. That's where the term going Dutch comes from, right? It's much more egalitarian over there. Given that culture has a lot to do with how we think about it, in a patriarchal society, such as in Korea, where men have a lot of economic power, that also means women maybe don't have as many rights or aren't able to do everything that they want to do. So while it's great for men to pay all the time, like I'm fine with it if someone wants to pay for me all the time, but if it means that I'm living in a society where I also don't have as much agency, then I might not be on board with it. I have over the years evolve beyond these like traditional expectations. For example, when I first got my summer internship in college, we had a whole class of other summer interns, and I ended up dating a guy in my summer internship program. And then we ended up getting full-time jobs at the same company. So we were literally making the same entry-level salary, same position. However, when we went out on dates, he would just pay and I wouldn't even offer, because in my mind, I'm like, I should pay, right? But then now I am dating a guy, I love him very much, he's my boyfriend, and he makes a lot less than me. In the beginning, my boyfriend would take me out to nice dinners, even like $200 dinners, and he would pay for everything. And then after we got to know each other better, I realized we actually had a huge income difference, and it literally just did not make sense financially for him to be footing the bill on all these dates. And so what we've actually come to is, when he wants to take me out, we'll go somewhere that's in his budget. If we want to go somewhere that I want to go to that's like a little bit higher end, then I'll pay for the date, no problem. If we're being honest, all women love that feeling of being treated and taken out and wined and dined, but sometimes that's not realistic, right? So we found ways for him to do other things for me that make me feel good, like picking me up from the airport or like buying me flowers, carry heavy things for me. We still are able to maintain that sort of masculine and feminine energy balance that makes a woman feel so good. And at the end of the day, it's about what works between you and your partner. So AI says you can do a couple of things. 1, whoever initiated the date can pay. 2, you can split the bill. 3, you can take turns. 4, you can just discuss it beforehand. So I actually like all of these options. However, definitely whoever initiates the date makes sense for them to pay. Splitting the bill, I don't know, that really feels like friendship to me. It just sort of like kills the romance. So I actually like the whole taking turns thing, where if you guys sort of make similar incomes, then one person pays for dinner one night and then the other person pays for the date the next night. Or the 4, which is sort of what I do with my boyfriend and I, which is to discuss it beforehand, which is just like, hey, like, let's go to this thing. How does it work for your budget? I can pay for it, or you can pay your share, or maybe you can treat us this time. It's always like a conversation ongoing, and it feels really good. So I would actually love to hear from you in the comments. Who do you think should pay on dates? Let me know in the comments below. So this next question is for anyone who has ever wanted to make a really big purchase to treat yourself, but you weren't sure if you really could afford it or not. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, I really wanna splurge on this $3,000 Prada bag. Am I being frivolous? As an AI language model, I cannot make value judgments on your personal choices. However, I can offer some questions that may help you make a more informed decision. 1, can you afford the bag without compromising your financial security or stability? 2, how often will you use the bag? And 3, are you buying the bag because you genuinely love it and it brings you joy? Or are you buying it just to keep up with a certain image or status? I love this. Well, number 1, I would say if you have credit card debt, you cannot afford it, period. And secondly, if you have an emergency fund of say 3 to 6 months of living expenses, then you're good. Like, you need to have certain financial basics covered before you can treat yourself to nice things. I also noticed that ChatGPT tends to be very diplomatic. Like, it always says, I can't tell you what to do, but here's XYZ to consider. So let's actually push it to give me a more specific answer. I'm gonna ask, I would put this on a credit card because I don't have the cash right now. Let's see what it says. It's important to think carefully before putting a large purchase like a $3,000 Prada bag on a credit card. Before making the purchase, consider the interest rate, blah, blah, blah. Overall, it's important to weigh the potential long-term costs of putting a purchase like this on credit. It may be more prudent to save up the cash or look for a less expensive alternative. Wow, I love how diplomatic ChatGPT is. If someone asked me if they could buy a $3,000 Prada bag and put it on their credit card because they don't have the cash, I would be like, are you fucking stupid? Absolutely not. I wish ChatGPT would just say, do not make this purchase. No. But yeah, ultimately, if you are funding all of your financial goals, if you want to save for a house, you want to retire, and so you're putting money in your 401k, you're putting aside money every month for the down payment on a house, you're making good sized payments towards your student loans, you don't have credit card debt, you have a stable job, you have an emergency fund, then why not put aside a little bit of money every month towards a Prada bag and treat yourself. And when you buy it, do not feel guilty about it at all. Also, another consideration is how often you'll use the bag. Will it be a valuable addition to your wardrobe? So if you're really going to use it, then the cost per use ends up being actually very economical. So even a $3,000 sticker price, if you wear it almost every single day for 10 years, because these bags tend to last a long time, then it could be actually a really, really good deal. But if you buy an $80 bag from like TJ Maxx because it was on sale and you only wear it like twice, then that's $40 per use, which is actually really expensive. But think about a $3,000 Prada bag. If you wear that, I don't know, 1,000 times over the course of several years, then the cost per use is $3 per use. So it's actually a lot cheaper than that $80 TJ Maxx bag, right? So that's also something to consider. It's not frivolous if you're gonna use it and you have your financial bases covered and you're not putting it on credit and you can actually afford it. All right, next question. Should we take out a loan to pay for our wedding? This is a controversial one. The average cost of a wedding is $20,000 to $30,000, and most young people who are getting married aren't really prepared for that. So ChatGPT says, taking out a loan to pay for a wedding is a personal decision that depends on your financial situation, priorities, and values. Here are some things to consider. 1, budget. 2, debt. 3, interest rates. 4, repayment terms. 5, priorities. Ultimately, whether or not to take out a loan to pay for your wedding is a personal decision that depends on your unique situation. Now, I'm really gonna disagree with ChatGPT here. Sometimes with these personal finance questions, ChatGPT is a little too diplomatic. I really think that you should never get into debt for a wedding. Imagine you are young, you get married, you're looking forward to starting this new life with your partner, and already from day one, you're like $20,000, $30,000 in the hole, and you may still be paying off student loans, you may be wanting to save for a house or even already have a mortgage. You're gonna just have so much debt. And this is one of the problems with capitalism and America, is that debt is just so normalized that taking out a loan for your wedding is considered normal. I'm sure nobody will judge you for it because your wedding is a very special day, but financially, is that something you really want to do to yourself? I'm really gonna disagree with you here, ChatGPT. I feel like you should have just said no. Now, if you really want to have a nice wedding, there are certain things that you can do to prepare for it, right? Even if you don't have a partner or you're not engaged right now, if getting married one day is something that you eventually want to do, then why not start saving up for it now? So set aside a couple $100 a month or whatever towards this sort of indefinite goal so that you at least have something the day that you have your wedding. Another option is you do not have to spend $20,000, $30,000 on a wedding. Yes, your parents might pressure you into having a nice wedding. Maybe you feel this pressure to keep up with the Joneses and have a nice wedding. But that desire to keep up with the Joneses is why so many people are in debt. Really, the idea is to celebrate your love with your partner. Then do you really need to spend money to do it? It's not absolutely necessary, right? That's another part of the whole capitalist brainwashing that we've all bought into. If you want to have a special day with your partner to celebrate your love, can you do it without spending $20,000? I actually have a friend that got married and they probably spent like $6,000 on their wedding. They had friends bring food like a potluck style, and they rented an Airbnb and had everyone party there. They had a friend who DJ'd. They just found ways to do it in a really budget-friendly way. She also bought her wedding dress secondhand and paid like nothing for it, and she looks beautiful on her wedding day. Of course, at the end of the day, if you really want to get into debt for it, that is up to you. But I think you're really doing yourself a disservice because $20,000 for a wedding, like that could have gone towards a down payment on a house or something to kickstart your life together. All right, my next controversial money question for AI is, should couples keep separate bank accounts or have joint bank accounts? Whether couples should keep separate bank accounts or joint bank accounts depends on their personal preferences and financial situations. Here are some factors to consider. 1, financial goals. 2, spending habits. 3, trust. And 4, communication. And so ChatGPT says financial goals. If a couple has shared financial goals, such as saving for a down payment or paying off debt, it may make sense to have a joint account to pool resources and work towards those goals together. So I really like that because working towards goals together, especially financial ones, puts you on the same team. It's something that brings you closer together. So you could maybe have a joint account for a joint savings goal. But then where it gets sticky is spending habits. If one partner is a big spender and the other is more frugal, that's where you can really have conflicts. And I can totally agree. Like if you completely share your incomes and put it all into one account, and then one partner likes to go shopping and the other likes to be more frugal, that's where you can really have fights about money. I haven't really struggled with this because my partner and I are both pretty frugal, but there might be a situation where he wants to buy something that I don't agree with, like he really likes cars and I like designer handbags. Well, then what do you do? So I think this is where having separate bank accounts is really helpful. I really like the idea of having a certain part of your financial life that's shared. Everything that you do together is paid for out of that account. But if there's something that I want to do that has nothing to do with my partner, then I'd like to just buy it in my own account and not have to ask for permission or check with him or anything, and likewise for him. So I really like the idea of having a mix of both. Okay, and ChatGPT also says trust is something to consider. If a couple has trust issues, keeping separate accounts may be the best option. Now, that's actually problematic. Like, if you have trust issues, you shouldn't even be together, right? I feel like keeping separate accounts because you don't trust each other, sure, it could be a solution, but then like, is the foundation of the relationship even sound? That's what I'm asking. Sometimes ChatGPT has some weird answers, right? Number 4, communication. Whether a couple has joint or separate accounts, it's important to have open and honest communication about their finances. They should discuss their spending, savings, and financial goals regularly. I love that. Yeah, like whatever you do, you always should communicate with each other. The number 1 reason couples fight is because of money, right? So the more you talk about things, the better. Another reason why I really like this idea of a mix of separate and joint accounts is because maybe a couple has been together for many, many decades and then they divorce. God forbid, if anything ever happens down the road and you separate, you at least have your own financial identity. Like you have your own credit score, you have your own bank account, like you have something that is yours. Because yes, a relationship is a team, but you're not one person. You're 2 different people coming together as a team. So I really like the idea of maintaining a good mix of financial independence and having certain things that are shared. So that's personally my opinion, and I'd love to know what you think as well. All right, next question. This is a good one. Should I get a prenup? And of course, AI has a very diplomatic answer. The decision to get a prenup is a personal one that depends on a variety of factors, including your individual circumstances and beliefs about marriage and finances. I know that in the movies and in the media, prenups are sort of portrayed as something that's really mean and it only like protects the person who has the money, but actually it could also protect the person who comes in with less money, because the thing about a prenup is that it outlines how assets and debts will be divided in the event of a divorce. So let's say like you're marrying a really, really rich person. Well, if you didn't have a prenup, then yeah, sure, the assets could be divided in the divorce, but also the debt will be shared. So if the rich person also had like $1 million of tax debt to the IRS because they made their money in a shady way or whatever, then that debt is also going to be divided and will be your responsibility as well. Another thing is that it does provide clarity for both parties, because there's nothing worse than not knowing, right? It's better to just have all your cards on the table and to know if the worst comes to happen and we get divorced, what would happen. And a lot of people end up staying in relationships and marriages that they're miserable in, or that are actually really bad for them because they are afraid of what will happen financially. However, if you have a prenup, you know exactly what will happen and you can make your decision with your eyes wide open. So I do want to provide that other perspective. So that's actually something I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Is a prenup good or bad? I like this answer. A prenup is neither inherently good nor bad. Yeah, I think that's really true. I don't think a prenup is inherently good or bad. What makes it good or bad is how both people approach it, right? And it is a very delicate conversation, and it's a conversation that I recently brought up with my boyfriend, because if we ever got married, I would be coming into the marriage with significantly more assets. And if you come at it in a very sort of hostile way, like, hey, like, I need this prenup because like, I don't trust you, well, then it's gonna be bad and probably the relationship is not gonna work out. But if you come at it from a very sort of diplomatic, open way, like, hey, I really love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, but I personally would just feel like more comfortable and safer if we had this agreement, then, you know, that could be actually a really beautiful conversation that opens up a lot of wonderful conversations about your beliefs about money, your childhood backgrounds with money, how you view marriage, how you see yourself dividing financial responsibilities. It could actually instigate a really important conversation that so many couples never have, whether they have a prenup or not. Now, I will say that my boyfriend and I, we trust each other 100%, otherwise we wouldn't be together, right? But I do have a business, and if you have a business, if the worst comes to happen and you get divorced, then maybe your partner will end up with 50% of the business, but maybe they don't know how to run that business. Maybe they have no interest in running that business, and you have employees who like really depend on this business doing well. So in that situation, it could really be smart to have a prenup, and it has nothing to do with you not loving or trusting or believing in your partner. It's just being like a responsible person. Another situation where a prenup could be really smart is if you have children from a previous marriage. And so you don't want this like X factor if, you know, a divorce happens, like maybe those children will be left without anything, and that would be terrible for them. Something else they mention here is if you have a strong belief in the sanctity of marriage and are confident that you and your partner will stay together for the long term, a prenup may not be necessary. Doesn't everyone who gets married have a strong belief that it will last? So I feel like that statement is a bit ignorant, because a prenup is to protect against the unimaginable. I really don't think that just because you have a prenup, it means you have less belief in the marriage. I truly believe that if you're getting married, you 100% believe that you guys will go the distance. It is a very difficult and awkward situation to have to get a prenup. And honestly, like, even though it's been really nice to have these conversations with my boyfriend and it has helped us get to know each other a lot, and we're still like figuring things out, like what a prenup could look like if we ever needed one. But I have to say, it is a very unromantic conversation. It could also open up a lot of taboo money topics that you and your partner would never have discussed otherwise. So it could actually bring you a lot closer together. All right, so we have covered a range of topics. Thank you, AI, for giving us so many answers to a lot of confusing money questions. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, got something out of it. More importantly, that it has made you think kind of carefully about where you stand on some of these controversial money topics. If you have any ideas for more questions I should ask AI, then let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll make more videos like this. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.